Hi, my name is Tyrus Shivers, and today I'm going to be going over kind of an introduction into real estate investing. Now, we know that with real estate investing, there are many different avenues that you can invest in. It can go very deep and wide, but today I just want to cover some of the basics, some of the entry points that you can take into real estate investing. And I'm going to start off with these first steps that you see on your screen. So, number one, decide what type of real estate investing you want to pursue. Do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to buy and flip properties? There are tax lien investments. I mean, people hold notes. There are just so many avenues. So first, you really need to decide what area or what type you want or would like to work in. Number two is how much time, capital, and experience do you have? Are you a brand new investor that needs to start from scratch? Do you have a lot of money or a little money? Do you have a lot of time? Do you work full time? Or do you have a family? Do you have other, involvements that will take up your time? So you need to really, really think about how much time, money, and experience do you have to invest in real estate. So types of entry level investing includes wholesaling, fix and flip, buy and hold. And then what other resources are needed? Documents, a system, a way to keep up with everything that you're doing, oh, books, learning, websites, your tradesmen, cleaners, just all the little things that go into the real estate world, those things that you need in order to become a successful investor. You want to start to research and really think about and gain awareness of what it really takes to be a successful investor. So we're going to get started. Of course, we already went over these, but these are three focus areas that I wanted to highlight that I feel are good entry points for new investors. And that's wholesaling, fix and flip, which means you find a property, you buy it, it needs work, you renovate it, and then you sell it to a retail end buyer as a new product. And then buy and hold. And buy and hold has that slash because I can go and buy a property that already has a tenant, it's already been fixed up, it's ready to go. Or I can buy a property that needs to be rehabbed and then I rent it out. I can refinance it and then I repeat the process. A lot of landlords really build their portfolios quickly by using the BRRRR method. Wholesaling, the formula. And this isn't a concrete formula. This is just a rule of thumb, if you will. So after repair value, which is what the property is worth after it's been repaired, times 0.65 or 0.70, so 65 or 70%, and that time, that value, you have to really look at your market. In my market, 0.65 is kind of the go-to number. Other markets could be 0.70, 0.75. It just really depends. And then what you want to do, once you have that number, you want to subtract the repairs that's needed. So you got to be able to estimate repairs. And then your wholesale fee. That's the fee that you're going to get once you sell it to an end buyer or another investor. And that equals your offer price to the current owner or seller. So what's the process? You find a property, you assess the value, you assess the repairs, you put that property under contract with the owner, and then when you go to closing, you assign the property to another investor, and they actually bring all the capital, the funds, everything else is needed to close. Now, we're not going deep into this because there are layers to this. It's not as easy as just going through this process. It's simple, but it's not easy. So we're going to break down the process a little bit more. Find a property. How do you find a property? You can purchase list, absentee list, or probate list. You can go to your courtroom or your local court area and look up, let's say, code violations or property that haven't paid their taxes. You can go and look all that stuff up. Those are properties that you can begin to target for potential properties to put under contract to be able to sell. So once you have that list, however you generate that list, also driving for dollars. You can drive around, look at properties that look abandoned or look like they need a lot of work or the grass hasn't been cut. That's another good indicator. Once you build that list, you have to be able to get the owner's information some kind of way. And you can do that through tax records, looking up every property address and who owns it. Then you can mail them. And this is, direct mail. So you may or may not have ever received a little postcard saying, "Hey, my name is such and such from this company. I'd like to buy your property. Will you sell?" or something to that effect. And then you may call the number that's on that postcard. So that is what mail means, direct mail. Cold calling, which means I use some sort of service to kind of skip trace and get your phone number. And then I would cold call that owner. And I would say the same thing. I would use a script to say, "I'm Tyrus from X company. I buy properties in the area and I was looking to pick up a few more. Are you open to having a conversation about selling, or have you thought about selling recently?" And you just begin to have a conversation. Now, texting is a big thing. So if you get their phone number, their cell phone number, you can put it into certain text systems. There are softwares and programs out there. And then you just send text. And you basically say a shorter, condensed version of the script. And you start from there. The goal when you text is to get them to respond and set up a phone call and get them on the phone. Bandit signs. Now check your local ordinances, your rules, regulations. They're illegal in some areas, but bandit signs are those "we buy houses" or other signs that say, "Hey, you want to sell your house, full price offer. You don't need to do any work." And you just put those signs, you stake them in around your area. Again, check to make sure that's legal. Of course, you could use big signs like billboards. The "we buy houses" signs, they use a lot of billboards. So, those are different ways. And again, real estate investing is as much as a people business as it is a real estate or property business. So networking. You want to go to your local real estate investment associations. You want to go to local meetups that talk about investing and really go into those things. And so you just want to network. You want to become known. So if you want to wholesale, how do people know? You have to get the word out. And then when someone wants to sell, they know that, hey, this person came and they spoke to me. I'm interested in selling. Let me give them a call. So networking. You can never do enough networking. Now, let's assess the value. How much is this property worth after I fix it up or after it's been fixed up? How do you find that out? So you find the value by comparing the sold properties in the local area. And there's a science behind it. So we're not going to go deep into that, but that's what you do. So if I look in my area, a third of a mile radius, I want to look at all the comparable homes. That means same size, same bed, same baths, all the things that I'm putting in. I want to make sure that my comparable has those things: granite, stainless steel, carpet or hardwood, just all those things you want to look at. So I want to look at several of those comparable souls. That gives me my value. And you might ask, well, how do I get access to what has sold? You could go the hard way. It won't give you pictures most of the time, but tax records tells you what's been sold, when. Establish relationship with local real estate agents, realtors. Go in there, have a conversation, network with them, ask them if there's a charge for them to pull listings or comps or comparables in that area. Can they provide you a CPA or BPO? And so, or CMA, not CPA, CMA, which is just a market analysis, comparable market analysis. The MLS is where they pull that information from. So that's the multiple listing service in your state. You normally have to be a broker or a realtor to get access to this. It has the most current and accurate, up-to-date information. There are other softwares out there like Privy, which say that they pull that same information. And for investors, you can pay a fee and you get access to that and you can pull the numbers. I would not recommend using sites like Zillow. And that's where a lot of people do start because they don't have access to anything else. But be aware that Zillow does not update as regularly. It's really up to the agent to go back in and update and other people. So you may not get all the information that you need. And when you're assessing the value, know the area. I'm in Maryland, and in Baltimore, it's block by block. So there are certain blocks where the values may be very high, and you can go 2 blocks over and they're very low. So you want to make sure that you know your area, that you have a tight range or radius for what you're using as comparables, and that you just know. Next, we're going to assess the repairs. So if you don't have that experience in trade or construction, you might want to, or you should, get with a licensed contractor and ask them to come and tell you how many or how much the repairs are going to be for the property. How much will it take for me to get this property to this comparable? And you might pull a listing that was recently sold and say, hey, this house has everything that I want or that I'm thinking about or that would be good for an end buyer to put in their house when they renovate it. So tell me how much it would cost. Now, you might have to pay for that. Some contractors will go out for free, but always have the mindset that you're using time, so you need to trade some sort of value. If you're not paying for it, think about what kind of value you can trade with that person. Once you have the repair estimate, you know the value, now you go back to the seller and negotiate. You negotiate the numbers. For instance, if the seller wanted to sell their house for $100,000, but the ARV in that neighborhood is only, or we'll use these real numbers. I recently bought a property to fix and flip, and I used a wholesaler. So he had it under contract for roughly around $27,000. He wanted to wholesale it to me for $45,000. And so, you know, that difference in number is his wholesale fee. So just subtract 45 minus 27, and you get roughly 18. So now that's it. That would be his fee. The repair estimate that I used was $55,000. I needed $55,000 in this property for it to be a deal. What's the after repair value? In that neighborhood, homes were selling from between $145,000 to $155,000, depends on what you put in there. So I used the number 150. So if I take the after repair value and I say it's 150,000, I subtract my 55 or so thousand in repairs, that leaves me with 155 minus 55, or 150 minus 55, leaves me around 100,000. And then I got to subtract what I paid for it, which was 45,000 total. So that leaves me right around 55 in profit. And I'm going to double check my numbers just to make sure, so we're all clear on the numbers. So let's say I use 150,000 again for my after repair value. That's what other houses have sold. I said I'm going to put 55,000 in it. That's my repair estimate. That puts me at 95,000. I had to pay the wholesaler his fee of 45,000. So I knew that he had it on the contract for 27,000. Then he added his fee onto it, and it totaled 45,000. So from 45,000 minus that, it leaves me with about 50,000 in profit. Now, will I get all 50,000? No, because there are other fees and things that go into that, including listing fees, selling fees, and we'll cover that a little bit more. But that's how you negotiate the price. You have to know all the numbers so you can go to the seller and say, look, seller, I need to get this property, or what are you willing to sell it for? They may say, I'm willing to sell it for 40. You may know that I can only offer you 35 based on the numbers, and you come to an agreement. Don't ever force the numbers. If they do not want to sell, maybe it's not the right time, maybe they're not motivated, come back. Because if you do force the numbers, you will either likely not be able to sell the deal, or you won't make any money. So once you have your negotiation price done, you fill out the purchase agreement, which is basically your contract saying you're going to purchase the house. And then you have an assignment contract that you have with the end buyer. So you have to find a buyer that comes from networking, being known in the field. And once you go to closing, the buyer brings the funds, you get your assignment fee or your wholesale fee. The seller gets what you negotiated for the purchase price. Everybody goes home happy. Wholesaling takes a lot of work, time, and effort. Without proper systems, it could become a full-time job for you. It's not something that you have to put a lot of resources into it. Learning how to properly value properties and estimate repairs is the key to being successful. And there's something else I want to mention. Wholesaling is the lowest barrier or lowest entry into real estate investing. It doesn't take a whole lot of money. People will say, well, you can wholesale with $0 out of pocket. I don't find that to be true unless you're getting money from somebody else, because you still have to buy the list. And then how much is your time worth? You still have to either call all these people, mail these people, all those things cost. So starting with zero out of pocket is not really realistic. So when you hear that, start to ask questions. Okay, where am I going to get the money for the marketing from? Because finding the property, that's what we call the marketing part. The rest of it, is pretty decent. If you can trade value, you may have to pay for the souls, and you may not have to pay for a contract to give you the repairs, but just be prepared. Next, we're going to move on to fix and flip. So it's similar in the formula, because you got to know the after repair value. You got to subtract your repair estimate or cost, and then you give your offer price. The other thing you want to consider in this is your holding cost, and that depends on how long you hold that property. Taxes, utilities, fees, overages. You always want to budget in some of that cushion to have that safety net. So the 0.65 or 0.70 can encompass these, but if you break those numbers out and really know them, you don't have to use the formula, and that comes with time. The formula is just a safe way to say this deal should work. I should make some profit. So you want to make sure that you know the numbers. The process is the same. You find the property, assess the value, assess the repairs, put the property under contract with the owner. So we find the property in the same way, or we could use a wholesaler. We know that wholesalers are selling properties to people that want to flip. So you can buy them from wholesalers. Assessing the value, assessing the repairs are the same. You negotiate based on the numbers. You have a purchase agreement with your seller. You do the renovation. Then you list and resell to a retail buyer, someone who wants to come in and own a home. Understanding the rehab process is essential to becoming successful. Understanding trades and the construction process. Use only licensed contractors. Begin with the end in mind. So let's run through an example of what that looks like. I purchased a property in an area that is up and coming, and I'm using the same numbers that I used earlier because this is a real flip that I have going on right now. I know that the values are around $150,000. I knew the after repair, that's the after repair value, $150,000. The repairs, I wanted to put $55,000 in it. And how did I get that number, $55,000? Well, I have some experience in construction. I'm a licensed contractor, and I asked a guy that I know that flips in that area a lot. I said, can I take a look at one of your flips? And I want to see what you put into this property to make it sell, because he sold at 150 and he sold pretty quick. It was maybe 2 weeks on market. So I basically mirrored his renovation, begin with the end in mind. I knew what I wanted to sell for. I had to put granite in the kitchen, white cabinets, stainless steel appliances, gray paint. That was very popular, white trim. We did carpet upstairs, nice tile in the bathrooms, chrome vanity or chrome fixtures. These are the things that you got to think about with flipping property. Recessed lights in the basement, ceiling fans in the bedrooms, hardwood on the main level, carpet in the basement. Finished the basement. It wasn't finished prior. Put a bathroom, full bath in the basement, laundry unit upstairs. And so those are the things in construction and the process that you need to be familiar with. You want to know what all things that need to go into the property. Now, you might be saying to yourself, wow, I have the money, but I don't have the time, and I'm brand new, so I don't know all these things. Well, you can hire a licensed contractor, a general contractor, and they can manage this entire process for you. You still want to stay on top of them, ask them questions, and then what they would normally do is give you their SKUs or the materials that they normally use, and then you can select. So they might ask you, well, what paint color do you want? You were like, I don't know. Well, what sells in the area? Gray, a lot of gray. So I want gray. And then there are different types of gray, but agreeable gray from Sherwin-Williams. Those are some of the types of things. Gray carpet or beige tan carpet. Hardwood floor, cherry. So those are the types of things you just want to ask your GC. What do you recommend I put in this property? But if you have experience, go with what you know, go with what works for you. Understanding the construction process. Most properties in the beginning, you got to pull all your permits. Start there. Don't skip that process or you can get a fine. Demo out all the old stuff that you don't need, depending on the damage or the disrepair of the property. You might have a lot of demo, you might have a little demo. So do your demo. Once that's all ripped out, then you have your trade go in. For me, I had to do my plumbing and electrical and HVAC. All that needed, it didn't have central heating and air, so I had to have HVAC done. I had to get all new plumbing, and I had to do all new electrical because it still had knob and tube, which is not legal anymore. Well, once you update, you have to update it. So those 3 trades pulled their permits, they went in. What's the order? Different people do different things. Some people say HVAC should go first and then your plumbing and your electrician, or your plumber go first, then HVAC and electrician. But really understanding your tradesmen and how they work well together, they can tell you, okay, this is how we'll do this process. So after the trades are done, that's when you want to close up your walls. So you want to put your drywall up. You want to make sure that everything's covered again. After you have your walls up, you paint. And then you paint the property. Painting's done. After you do your painting, you can begin to set your tile in your bathroom, do your flooring, do your carpet, and then you can install your fixtures and those types of things. At the end, you start to pull in those cosmetic things, your cabinets, your fixtures and all that. And then you want to run through and paint again, of course, or you could touch up paint while you go. And at the end, when everything's done, do a very good deep cleaning. And then you list that. You get the pictures, you partner with a real estate agent, or you hire a realtor, or if you're a realtor yourself, you get all your pictures done, you list, you market, and then you sell. And then you're on the end as the seller as the negotiation process comes in, and that's how you fix and flip. Fix and flip can be very lucrative. You just have to make sure you follow this process, and the most successful investors have a system and a process that they continuously follow. So again, to recap, it's about finding the property, assessing the value, the repairs, negotiating the numbers, get it under contract, close, begin your renovation, list and resell to the retail buyer on the end, making sure that you run a great process or have a great construction process, making sure that the trades come in their order and you do everything in order. I had a property one time where the guys put floors in before we painted, before HVAC was done, and all they did was scratch up all the floors. And we had to redo it. So you want to be sure that you're following a process. There are contracts out there. There are spreadsheets out there that can help you assess and do these numbers and make sure the processes are being followed. And lastly, we have buy and hold. This is when you become a landlord. So very similar in the formula. You want to take, of course, into account that you're going to have to hold insurance for the property. You're going to have to pay taxes. You're going to have to set aside a budget for repairs. You're going to have to, just depending on your lease, you might have to pay utilities. So the formula for that should be much more deeper, but this will get you started. You want to find a property, assess the value. You want to know the rental rate. So how much rent can I get for this property in this area? Assess the repairs, put the property under contract with the owner, and then we follow really the same fix and flip process. The only thing that would be different if you were to buy a property that doesn't need any work and it has a tenant in it. So you might not have to do the repairs or do any of that. It's turnkey is what they call it. And you might pay slightly higher for that property, but it should be solid. All the work should be done. You should be good to go. Things that you want or that you need to be successful as a landlord. is understanding the rehab process if you have to rehab that property. Understanding trades and the construction process just so you have that right system in place. Make sure you use only licensed trades and vendors. Understand how to manage the tenant relationship, how to find a tenant, how to nurture that relationship, how to do repairs in a timely manner when they submit that a repair needs to be done. How do you track it all? How do you track your rent? Understand your local laws and regulations. If you're in Maryland and the property is built before 1978, you might have lead in the property. If you have lead in the property, you need a lead inspection. It has to be lead safe. You could always renovate and take all the lead out, and then it'll be lead free. But you have to still register. You have to register as a rental depending on what county you're in. So just knowing your local laws and regulations. How do you become a successful landlord, or how do you build a large portfolio? That is where the BRRR method comes in. You go to a hard money lender, which is a person, and we didn't cover that. So where do you get the money from? Hard money lenders, or if you can get a bank loan, that's another route. But hard money lenders are people who will lend based on the asset. So based on the property value, the ARV. And they will look at that formula, and then they will lend you an amount. Some lend, and I'm going to say this, some lend up to 100% of all the funds. It depends on your relationship. Private money is another way. If you know someone who has money, you might can negotiate with them to fund you. Or if you have the money that you've saved and you've worked for, that's another avenue. So you have to figure out where your money's coming from. But with buy and hold, if you have the funds, wherever you get it from, bank, hard money lender, personal, friend, family, you buy the property with those funds, you renovate with those funds, then you put a renter in there. Once you put a renter in there, and we think about the beginning money as short-term money, you need to get out of that money and get into a long-term mortgage. So what you do is you refinance. Now, when you refinance, they're going to look at the after repair value, because now the property's been fixed up, and they are going to give you an amount. Could be 70, could be 80% of what it's worth. And then you take that money and they roll you into a loan. So you get rolled into a 30-year, 20-year, 15-year mortgage. And you take that money that they give you, you pay off your lender, whoever that might be. And if you have enough, if you did all your numbers right, and this is your strategy, you would have calculated that, okay, if I do all of this right, I might can get some money back. So if you are able to cash out, that's called a cash out refinance, you're able to get some cash out, and then you can use that as a down payment on your next house. And that's where the rinse and repeat comes in. So you just keep following that process. You borrow short-term money, renovate, rent, refinance to long-term money, pay back your short-term money, and do it again. And that's how you can build a portfolio quickly. And this is how nearly anyone can actually get into being a buy and hold investor. Of course, it takes time, energy. You have tenants. If you don't know how to manage tenants, you can get a property manager. That's another fee that you have to calculate in your numbers. Management fees range from 8% to 12% per month of the monthly rent. So if your rent is $100 or $1,200 a month, and you got a 10% property management fee, that is $120 a month you're paying to property management. And they take care of finding a tenant, placing a tenant, eviction if necessary, the calls that come in for broken things that need to be fixed. They collect the money, they collect the rent, then they pay you minus their fee. You could do that. Or as I would suggest, start out with one property, maybe two, manage it yourself so you know the process. Because once you understand the process, then when you hire a property manager, you'll be knowledgeable. You'll know how it should work, what a smooth process looks like. Tenant placement is placing a tenant. Now, usually you can do that with a realtor. They'll put it on MLS, your property. They'll put a tenant in there. Usually the going rate is 1 month's rent. So if you rent $1,200, that's how much they're going to charge you. Property management companies will do tenant placement, and they usually charge 1 month's rent. You do have some that may charge half. So half of that fee or 50% of 1 month. It just depends on the relationship. It depends on their numbers and how they run their business. But always feel free to negotiate. So again, these are 3 entry-level ways to get into real estate investing. It goes much deeper in each one of these. You can dive deeper into them, but this is kind of an introduction. I want to tell you out there that anybody can do this. I recommend that everyone should at least attempt to do this, because real estate is one of those wealth building tools, and that can really help you change your economic status. It takes money. It does not take a lot of money. If you don't have a lot of money, don't feel like I can't do this. You have to figure out, who do I know, or what other ways could I negotiate or trade value for value or get into this. So begin with the mindset of you can do this. You just have to figure out your entryway. People love to start with wholesaling because it doesn't take as much capital as fix and flip or buy and hold. So think about wholesaling as a way to get your feet wet. You take the money from wholesaling, you move into these other two, but know that wholesaling is a job. You need a system. You need time. It takes time to get those deals for them to go through for you to really, really start moving. Fix and flip is where you get the big capital. You buy a property, you fix it, you sell it, you get that big chunk of change. What are you going to do with it? A lot of people take that money and they roll it into their buy and hold. That's where they start building their portfolios. And then with buy and hold, of course, you can get in the same way. Short-term capital, buy, renovate, place a tenant, refinance to long-term capital, and you rinse and repeat and keep doing it. Again, these are just three. There are many, many different avenues of real estate investing. It goes much deeper. But these are 3 entry-level ways that you can get into real estate and how you can be successful at doing that. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to the LEV Business and Economic Committee, and we will answer those questions. And have a great one. Thank you.